first one. Oh,
I'm killing it.
I know. What can I say? You take a break from it and you can do everything. I was not expecting to hit that one at all.
Okay. We'll start. Talk a little bit.
It's okay, I can cut
Talk
that.
a little bit about your.
Like I'm sweating. Well, it's gonna happen. Okay. Yeah.
You can stare at me. I'm not gonna stare back.
Okay. We can just have a conversation.
Okay.
Just act like you don't know me. I don't know you. I don't know what your name is.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
If you could just start by.
It's okay.
Sorry.
She's not judging your questions.
Okay. If you could just start by stating your name, where you're from, and your year at UNC.
My name's Katie Grace. I'm from Gainesville, Florida, and I am a senior at UNC.
What sport do you play?
I play softball.
What made you choose Carolina for softball?
I didn't actually have that many offers. Carolina was my first choice and my only offer. And my uncle played golf here and my grandfather played basketball, so I'd always wanted to go to Carolina. And the academics are great and the athletics are great, and it's really hard to find an institution that does both well.
What has been your biggest area of growth since you've gotten here?
I honestly thought that softball would be where I would learn the most and grow the most, and it being like a full-time job, that's kind of what I expected. But I actually ended up growing a lot, like mentally. I dealt with my sophomore year. I'm gonna get so awkward during this. My sophomore year, whenever our season started, I like could not pitch the ball. I was so anxious. I would like throw the ball to the backstop, and it was like only on my changeup, which at that time was like my best pitch. So the anxiety translated off the field and into the classroom in places where I'd never really dealt with that before. And after a while of like trial and error with a lot of different like antidepressants and anxiety meds, I like completely lost my appetite and ended up losing like 50 pounds throughout the semester. And through that developed an eating disorder that kind of took on a life of its own from the anxiety. So I think that dealing with that and then having to go through treatment and like realize that I had a problem and get through that while also still staying in the world of athletics is probably the most I've ever had to balance two things at once and like really look at what was good for me rather than everybody else.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with athletics, it's so like go hard or go home and like do everything to the fullest and like extra work doing this, but like when you're already like doing 20-hour weeks and it's so much, like it's doing extra on top of that. It's like it just didn't make sense for me at the time. I'm like losing my thoughts. I feel like the world of athletics is so like goal oriented and like go, don't rest type mentality. And I think that's what I had embodied my entire life. And it got to a certain point where that became my eating disorder, was like pushing through all the pain all the time and not listening to my body. And I think that's why I was just so, it sounds bad, but so good at having an eating disorder, is because it's like you know how to just push past the discomfort being an athlete and knowing that kind of pain and just continuing on like it's not there.
What are the difficulties of having an eating disorder and being an athlete? You kind of already touched on this, but.
Yeah, I just think being in athletics it's like all about wellness, health, your body, how you can fuel your body to make you be the best. And I think that when you're talking to a group of athletes, you don't know who's predisposed to take that message and just really run with it. And you have people that, everybody's in different bodies, and just the body size that you're in doesn't determine how athletic or how good at your sport you are. So I think that there's a really big misconception that we all need to look a certain way to be at our best. And I feel like I really realized that that's not the case, because going from a size 10 to a size 0, I was way more capable when I was in a size 10. I was way more powerful, I was healthier, I could actually focus on school, softball, think straight. But when I was smaller, it was that praise of like, what are you doing? How did you do this? Like, you look so good, your muscles look so defined. And it just is so like counterintuitive and destructive for me at that time. I'm gonna pause it.
So what made you want to withdraw from school?
So the fall of my junior year, I went into like an intensive outpatient program for eating disorders because I felt like I needed additional help. I was really struggling. I wasn't eating, and I was trying to play and come back still. And when I went into that program, I realized that like I was not going to get the help that I needed in an intensive outpatient program. Like, there just was no way that I could like fully heal, because I would go there, I would like eat a meal, I'd come home, and I'd like compensate for it. And with, I started to have like over exercising tendencies, and there was no way for that to be monitored. And I just felt really, really out of control and impulsive. And so I ultimately made the decision to withdraw from school and go into a residential program where we had like support 24 hours a day. And we stayed there, and while I hated it while I was there for the 6 weeks, it ultimately ended up being the best decision that I've made, because I know what that's like, and I know that I don't want to go back there and have to redo everything that I did and put in all the hard work again. So it ultimately ended up being something that was very motivating for me.
So what was it like going to treatment and also like being a part of the softball team?
They were a huge support system for me, and they still are. They were amazing throughout all of it. I think that had it been different, it would have been incredibly hard, because they encouraged me to make the best decision for me, which I feel like you don't find very frequently. And it really felt like they had my best interest at heart and wanted me to be okay, and that they wanted me to put myself first rather than thinking about, how my absence was affecting the team. And I think that was huge, because I think that you don't find that very frequently in athletics. And it was just really important for me to have them and have their encouragement and almost permission to go to treatment and leave the team for a moment. We can just up, as this has always been a problem.
Okay, we'll start. Talk a little bit.
It's okay, I can cut that.
Talk a little bit about your body image, issues growing up.
So I don't want to say never. I didn't struggle to the level that I struggled with in college, in high school, but I definitely was very focused and compensatory growing up. It was like, if you exercise this much, you can eat this much, and that mentality. And I grew up in a family where I was definitely like the strongest, I was just built bigger than my siblings, and I feel like that was very difficult for me because I always felt like my body was something that I needed to fix rather than something that was like a vessel for me to like travel through life and, you know, use to my, use it for softball and for athletics. And I would say that it didn't really take a turn, like even when it became an issue in college, it didn't start out as like a, I'm gonna lose weight because I don't like how I look. It was very much like a, like I started losing weight and then I was like, oh, I'm losing weight. And then I became very fearful of gaining that weight back. And it wasn't until I had lost about like 40 pounds that I would like look in the mirror and like not even recognize myself, or like I had never been that small and looked like that. And I felt like it was a very like startling, odd feeling.
Can you talk more about the bigger picture of like athletics and body size and how like even at a young age that kind of impacted you?
No, that makes sense. I feel like growing up, my body was looked at as like being a good thing in the sense of like I was tall, I was strong, all of these things. But I think it's more so like the culture that surrounds athletics in general, and especially college athletics, of like, you know, it's like the idea that we can be healthy at every size and be strong at every size and be able to perform at every size is so misunderstood. And it's this idea that, you know, if you're in a bigger body, can you imagine how good you'd be if you were in a smaller body? When in all actuality, like that bigger body could be where that person thrives and is comfortable and happy and content and healthy. And to try to change that can honestly end up leading to like their destruction in the sport in general. And it's that misunderstanding of being in a bigger body being viewed as a moral failing rather than just the way they were born and their genetics and biology, and not having that like diet culture surrounding us of, you know, eat this to lose weight, this is good, this is bad, you know, this is healthy, this is not healthy. And just the judgment that surrounds food in general in athletics. It's like a potato and a French fry will ultimately get broken down the same in your body. And to try to control what people eat and thinking that that ultimately really impacts performance that much is a far stretch and can actually end up being really destructive psychologically for that person. I'm just trying to make sure that I like touch.
So how has having the student coaching role impacted all of this?
So I ultimately made the decision to medically retire this summer, and I have been able to really help with the team, which is the role that I took on the past 2 years when I was redshirting anyways, was just like pitching to the girls, helping in any way that was needed, and really just being able to like be around the people, because that's what I truly enjoy about UNC softball. And I've lost my love for, you know, the go hard or go home mentality of athletics, but I still love the people here and I love being around the game. And it's given me the ability to continue having that support while also being able to take care of myself and, you know, having struggled with over-exercising, it's finding what movement feels good to me rather than being told what movement is good for my body in terms of a sport. And that for me has been huge. I've been able to kind of share my struggles of both, you know, eating disorder, anxiety, depression, all of that, and be able to voice it so that other people don't feel like it's such an uncommon thing in athletics. And I feel like the ability for people to be able to speak up and voice it and let people know that it's not uncommon, and that, you know, what they're going through, other athletes are going through too, and being able to kind of create that platform to be able to like bring athletes together. And I'm losing my train of thought. Just
To like empower the athletes, I guess, rather
Yeah.
than like taking away all their choices and like
yeah, I think it's just wanting to empower other athletes, show them, kind of tell my story. I think that there were a lot of ups and downs, and within the university healthcare system and the mental health care system in general, I felt very tossed around, and it kind of felt like this is a lost cause mentality. And I feel like that really like deeply impacted me and was really hard. And, you know, my coach served as my main support rather than providers that I couldn't find or couldn't get in with because they didn't have availability. And I think that it's just sharing my story so that other people read it, and maybe it sparks some sort of change or some sort of realization in people that like this is an issue and there's a better way to do it. And also just giving resources to people that I wish that I had had at the time. Because while I ultimately found my way there, I feel like I could have gotten there a lot quicker and, you know, stopped myself from getting so sick to the point where I would have to leave school in order to become okay again.
have you seen the changes around you, like in your environment, whether it's softball or like your family and stuff?
Yeah, I feel like on our team, we really, last year especially, you know, having had all of my friends and support system around me, there was definitely a big effort to, you know, be cognizant of like what we were saying, how we were talking about other people's bodies, what we were prioritizing in general as a team. And we had our sports dietitian come in and talk to us. She's Health at Every Size and intuitive eating, which is basically unlearning all of the diet mentality that you've ever been taught. And just with the prevalence of disordered eating and eating disorders in female athletics, it's so important that we're educated, our coaches are educated, you know, our support staff is educated, because it's so easy for people to slip through the cracks in this, because, you know, we see someone lose weight and we just praise them and ask them how they did it and tell them how good they looked. And you never know what is causing that weight loss and what is behind that. And, you know, that praise can ultimately just continue to encourage somebody to get sicker and sicker. And I think people also have a very hard time realizing that, like, there is a predisposition to eating disorders. So while your, you know, keto or paleo diet might be fine for you because you can come off it, go on it, you know, keep a pretty moderate, be able to do it in moderation. Someone who's predisposed to a eating disorder, like, they'll take it to the extreme just like that. And it's so hard to realize that, you know, when you have that biological predisposition and you have that history in your family, how conscientious you have to be, and you have to worry about yourself and know that when someone's talking about something or trying a diet, that you can't do that, because that will ultimately really, really hurt you. And I think that that's not something that's very commonly talked about, but it's something that is such an issue. And I wish it was more understood in athletics. Did I stop it?